In this plot we have Sakura applied at 118 grams, incorporated by sowing, but the treatment had a stubble was removed, so the natural lentil stubble that was in the paddock was taken away, and we had bare soil for the Sakura application to go on. In this plot we got, based on early weed counts, 94% control. If we compare that with the next plot where we actually spread additional stubble, so we moved some of the stubble that was in the paddock, the lentil stubble, and we got close to 90 to 100% ground cover at the time of application. And with a rainfall event of 25 to 30 mils in the next 3 days after sowing, this level of control was actually identical whether it had the stubble removed or the stubble retained. So really no effect from the stubble component, and showed that Sakura washed off quite readily. If you're a farmer though that needs to burn stubble for their too much crop residue or needing it for their tillage equipment, then we also had a plot where we burnt the stubble. So the stubble was spread again at a high level and then burnt prior to the application. And what we found here was still quite high levels of ryegrass control, so we really had no negative effects from the stubble being there or being burnt before it was applied. And here we are at the box of gold treatment that's had 2.5 litres of box of gold per hectare, and it was, in this site again we had stubble removed, so we had bare soil at the time of application. We got quite high levels of control here of over 95% control. But when we retained the stubble, so we brought in additional stubble so the ground was well covered, what we found was a very big drop off in control, and we have the level of control dropping from the 90% control down to 45% control. So clearly in this herbicide is not managing the stubble residue. Some of it's being bound to the stubble and not washing off. Now this plot we're looking at is the Trifluralin at 1.5 litres per hectare, and this particular herbicide quite often has a problem with the way that it does bind to stubble. So in this situation we've got the application applied where it was bare soil, and unfortunately the resistance level is so high in this plot we only managed to get less than 25% control. If we compare that with the plot with the same rate of Trifluralin with the addition of stubble, again a very dirty crop with the level of control we got here was only 17%, and you can see that the yield loss and the problems we're going to have with the amount of ryegrass that's survived in this particular plot. So one of the things that we've observed when we've been trialling Sakura is that we need to keep the weed seed very close to where the herbicide is applied. In this plot we've been looking at a situation where Sakura was applied after a cultivation of the soil. So what's happened is there's two things that happen when it's cultivated. It stimulates a new germination of ryegrass, or a greater population of ryegrass germinating, and it also separates the seed, buries the seed and disturbs it, so that when the Sakura is applied it's separated from the herbicide. Sakura works both through shoot and root uptake, but predominantly root uptake. So the closer we get the weed seed to where the Sakura residue is in the soil, then the better the control. So you can see in this plot where we've got a level of ryegrass that's escaped and looking quite healthy. That's come about by the fact that we applied this to seed that were buried. So now if we look at the treatment that's had Sakura without any disturbance prior to sowing, and you see certainly a lot higher level of weed control, and this is the way that Sakura needs to be applied, as incorporated by sowing and not having any soil disturbance. So keeping the herbicide quite close to the weed seed so that it gives the highest level of control.